Speaking of amazing, I got a special clip for you. Your favorite person, Rachel Cruze.
Mm.
Okay, so we're back. We're going to go to a clip from Rachel Cruze on the Dave Ramsey Show.
See, you do this on purpose
I do.
because you say her name and like there's this like little storm cloud inside of me that starts to happen.
Oh,
And I'm pretty sure it's like my inner little feminist getting really like irritated.
Yeah. I like that there's a storm. There's a storm brewing inside of me. You know what that's from, right?
All right. Well, let's just see what Dave's little parrot prodigy child has to say to
The American people.
the American people and knock all the power out of women. And yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
All right. So this video is titled "Why Do People Hate?
Yeah.
Why do people hate this financial advice?" That's what the title of this is. So let's see what financial advice they're talking about. So it's her and John Delony.
Oh, your favorite.
Listen,
I mean, he's not your
least
favorite.
No, he's not my favorite. Skippy's my favorite.
I know you love when you're right. So you are always.
I'm gonna just bask. Actually, you never said I was wrong though.
Oh no, this is more America.
That would have been better.
America. I watch you get beat up when we're doing live events and on the internet, social media about. You always tell everybody. We always tell everybody to get joint checking accounts and bank accounts, and don't hide money from each other.
So there was this Instagram reel going around, and it was like, basically say something that no one would say out loud, and you like point and you put like a thing, and I put, when you get married, combine your money, including one checking account, and you would have thought, you would have thought that I was like, everyone out there I hate.
No,
like, you would have thought I was telling
invite your neighbor over for dude.
So that's what everybody hates. It's stupid. Who cares? I don't know. It just seems like it's between the couple, doesn't it? And the other thing I don't get, I don't get is, how is this financial advice? Do they make more money by joining accounts? Do they?
I mean, it's all kind of the same amount of money. It's kind of just more about how that you're choosing to organize and arrange it, so to speak, like what the logistical setup is of how they transact. And quite frankly, if you're sharing one bank account, there's much higher probability that you're going to screw it up.
No, that's probably true.
I mean, if you and I were sharing a checking account for something other than bills or something, and we share 0 bank accounts in any way, but say we did, and it was not just for like some sort of shared bill situation, but it's for just whatever other stuff too. Your lunch out, pair of pants, new sneakers, whatever. If you haven't told me about it before I'm debiting other things or whatever, like, you hope there's a whole lot of excess sitting there in that account, but there might not be, right? And no offense, but you want to have to like text or call somebody every time you like do it. I don't know.
Make a purchase, yeah. Could be one of those things we had somehow in a joint checking account. You called me to like, Duncan, where you at? Oh, I'm in Vegas. You'd be running to the bank to try like, where's my money?
Oh no, that would not be good. Not be good at all. So I guess what somebody would say against what I just had to say is, but Alasius, that means they're going to be communicating more about their money. And isn't that a good thing? Well, sure, I guess, unless you get to a point where it's like, you're trying to do things on the same freaking day and you're like, wait, I got declined. What did you do? Well, like 20 minutes ago, I bought sneakers.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were going to try to go and buy whatever today, or,
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like a lot.
There's communication and then there's too much communication. Anyway, but she said she's right. She's been proven right. So let's see what proved her right.
you got a lot of heat for it.
It was like, hey, go drive to a red light, and whoever's next to you in the car, combine your checking. Everyone's like, you're so stupid. Like you would have thought that was my advice.
All right, so
all to say,
I gotta say, if I'm at a stoplight and somebody pulls up next to me and goes, combine your checking account, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
I'd be like,
that's a weird analogy she just gave.
What is going on? Is somebody being like initiated into something? What's happening? Right.
Pizza Rat, 9/11 was an inside job. Okay. I'm rolling up my window now.
Gladstone, Garbinski, Mogenliner, sorry that I just butchered your name. In the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. This is the abstract. Ultimately, when couples decide to share their lives, they're simultaneously faced with a decision of how or whether to pool their finances. So this group of psychologists is doing a study to find out, does the way in which couples keep their money affect happiness in their relationship?
Okay, so it's not a finance thing. It's about personal happiness. So it's not so how is this? It's not financial advice, boys and girls. Financial advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we also just get to some actual technicalities here?
Yeah.
Okay. Disclaimer. Last time I checked, still wasn't a lawyer. But generally speaking, when you get married, legally, your money kind of already got joined, unless you did certain things to kind of separate things off, prenups, blah, 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 right? But when you get married, that kind of already got done for you. So what they're really talking about is really how you organize and do your day-to-day spending. Mm-hmm. Is what they're splitting the hairs about. And the way they say it almost sounds to a listener like they're suggesting that by keeping separate bank accounts somehow you have like separate ownership of money, and that's not necessarily true. It's just like how people are choosing to organize money.
Right. Well, but they're saying this is a happiness thing, right? The other thing I love too is we actually pulled up the study. It's not really a study; it's a study of studies, right? And
they studied studies, right?
Yeah,
because they didn't actually conduct them, right?
No, they didn't conduct any of these studies. These three professors, Gladstone, Garbinski, and Mogilner. But he said it's in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. So he said these three psychologists are studying happiness compared to pooling accounts. Well, let's see. So the first professor, Joe Gladstone, what does he do? He's the marketing division at the Elite School of Business at the University of Colorado in Boulder. So he's a business professor, not a psychologist. How about the second one? Maybe that'll fix it. Emily Garbinski. What does she do? South Carolina, Johnson College of Business, Cornell. So she's a business professor. Not a psychologist. Let's look at the third professor, Casey Mogilner. Anderson School of Management, UCLA. It's the business school. So these are three business professors looking at this. They're not psychologists, so they don't. I mean, so already he's
looking at some sort of behavioral, thing and a tie to happiness, yada yada.
Yeah, well, when I read this, it's not very long, but we'll get to the end. They're looking at something different from what he thinks. They're not looking at, does it really tie to happiness? I mean, they're sort of comparing it, but they're looking at something completely different. But I still love the fact that he thinks it's three psychologists. This guy, Delony, has 2 PhDs. You think he would be a little bit more on top of this shit. Because it's the very top of the paper, tells you the professors and where they work.
Now, I might be jumping ahead a little bit here, but I was just having a thought. So these guys didn't conduct these studies, from what I understand. They didn't conduct them.
Yeah.
They looked at studies that had already been done of various kinds.
And compared them. Yeah.
So Now, perhaps I'm not an expert here, but I'm a teacher, and I'm thinking about when I have to sort of pool data from assessments that I've done.
Right.
It's really difficult to pool data from assessments that were conducted in different ways with different questions.
Right, because then it's not consistent.
It's not totally consistent. There could be some overlaps, and you might be able to like find some correlations a little bit, but
right,
if the questions are different and it's conducted in a different way,
right,
it kind of makes the data a little bit more difficult to like directly. You can't totally just pool it together. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Right.
And so if they were looking at how many of them was like 5 or 6 or something, how many studies was it in the
6?
6. So if I gave 6 completely different exams to different groups of students,
yeah,
and they were conducted in different ways,
you can't grade them all the same way. Yeah.
And they're graded in different.
Yeah.
I couldn't just like give a presentation saying that like, you know, of like the whole sum of all of those students, XYZ, and like say in this definitive way, because there would be all the variations.
60% of the students were happier, and it's like, well, yeah, but was it one more than the other? I mean, you're not parsing it out, right?
So right, like okay, but in this one group of students, you fed all of them pizza and soda while they were like, you know, doing the study, and they're like, yeah, I'm happy, that's great, right? So but and this other group of students, something else, right? So the manner in which you do this is going to totally change it.
Right. Well, but you were right. So when professors do these kinds of studies, because they're trying to publish all the time, so these are kind of semi-throwaway studies that they'll do. But what it does is it gives you, okay, if I look at 6 different studies, kind of compare them, and I sort of see a trend, now I have a better idea of how to conduct my own study to see if my hypothesis is true.
Sure.
Because I looked at this and it looks like my hypothesis might be true. I looked at these 6 studies combined. So now I'm in a better position to develop a hypothesis and develop my own study. It's just the first step. This is even before hypothesis.
Right, but it kind of seems like the Ramsey Network wants to kind of look at this whole thing and say this study of studies doesn't just like set them up to be able to like, you know, maybe create a more all-encompassing study or something that's a little more specific to what they're looking at, right? They want to look at it and say, oh, when these guys looked at that, they definitively were able to tell you the meaning of life, or like how the dinosaurs got extinct or something from it, when they're like, we basically just found some overlap so we could like do another study.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to the conclusion of the study because it's not what you think it is. But anyway, once again, he's already fucked it up. It's not psychologists. It's business professors who are looking at this.
So I have a question for you, Duncan.
Yeah.
You think they read this study, huh?
Oh, I don't know that they read this. They never read.
They
never read.
I know, that's why he said it. They never read anything.
No, they never read. Why won't they read? It bothers me so much. Just read. That way.
So they took the Rachel Cruze
as many degrees as he has.
Yeah, you think he'd read it first. Well, they have 1,000 people working at that company. Somebody couldn't read it for him and give him the Cliff Notes. I mean,
right, like just a bullet point version of it that's like, you know, pretty clear.
Hey, John, just so you don't look like an asshole on the air.
Ramseyism and said, we're going to put it to the empirical test. Now, they did 6 different studies. Now, I haven't read the methodology here, but so this is just the abstract.
They didn't do 6 studies. They took 6 studies and compared them. It's such a fucking...
Their sample size was almost 40,000 people, including primary and secondary.
The combined sample size of all 6 studies was over 40,000. This is like shit like you really don't want to fuck up if you're a professor or if you're a PhD like he is. And yet he's just so embarrassing.
Which in your world...
That's a lot, right? That's a lot. So, again, I haven't looked at the methodology, but here's what they came across. Across 6 studies, about 40,000 people, that couples who pool all of their money compared to couples who keep all or some of their money separate experience greater relationship satisfaction and are less likely to break up. joining bank account, though it benefits all couples, the effect is particularly strong among couples with scarce financial resources. So
so two things. When you called it, he just said, I didn't read it.
You know what? I'd like to tell you that is just the manifestation of my psychic abilities.
They never read.
But I think we've discovered before that they just generally don't read.
We actually thought about doing an entirely separate segment on this show. We discussed this before, called Dave Ramsey and his crew don't read. And that's just to watch, just to have, because they do a ton of these and they never read the article. The article always says something different.
So I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like we set this segment up incorrectly. Had I realized I was gonna say the thing about them not reading, because I've got a crystal for that.
There you go.
I totally should have had a crystal ball here and been like, hold on.
Are they gonna read?
Seeing something.
They didn't read the study.
They didn't read the study. Yeah.
They didn't do the homework. All right.
Opportunity missed, man. All right.
All right. Anyway, so real quick, so I'll just read a couple of these studies just to give you a sense of how fucked this is. So study number 1. Okay, so we conducted this study at a busy intersection at a Midwest college campus the weekend of a football game that attracts thousands of university alumni. We set up a table with a sign inviting those in committed romantic relationships to participate. We got 148 people. So that's already an outlier right there. Study 1. Study 2 conducted a survey among married Americans on Amazon's Mechanical Turk. Following recommended recruitment procedures, we used an unpaid pre-screened survey that included a relationship status question. So self-fulfilled prophecy on that one. Because there's people are filling out whatever they want online.
Right.
So you don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't. The third one, the big one, was about 40,000. So the rest of these are all pretty small. But the third one was the big one. Okay. This is in the UK. We relied on data from Understanding Society, a nationally representative panel survey. 40,000 UK households. The survey began in 2009. The data continued to be collected. To present day, participants completed an annual survey, which includes questions measuring relationship satisfaction, account pooling, and other relevant measures. So they took a survey that they'd been given to these couples. Now, the interesting thing about the third one is this, because he didn't read the methodology and he didn't read the contributions or the conclusions or anything like that. The third one, the big one, what they found was this. So couples who were satisfied, reported being satisfied, more often pooled their money than couples that reported being unsatisfied, right? But couples who, because they've been taking this survey for over a decade, couples who were satisfied at one point and then became unsatisfied later did not pool their money. So they were pooling their money when they were satisfied, and then later when they were not satisfied in the marriage, they had separate accounts, and vice versa.
Well, do we actually need a study for that? I'm sorry, I'm laughing my ass off here, but okay. So hold on, no, you always do the let's break this down. I think we need Alicia's to break this.
Break it down, baby.
Because breaking it down. So you mean to tell me the earth-shattering information we've gotten from pooling all 6 studies that the Ramsey Network is just like selling like freaking hotcakes is that when people are happy, they're comfortable sharing their money. And when they stop being happy, they kind of want their money separate because they sort of feel a little weird about how things are going.
Right. Or they don't trust each other or whatever.
So the earth-shattering news is that when people don't trust each other and kind of don't like each other as much, they kind of don't want their money together.
Right. So they're trying to say if you pool your...
I am so glad they told me that.
Right. But that's the thing is he's missed the point was they're saying there's a correlation between relationship happiness and whether or not the couple stays together if they pool their money. What they took that to mean was, if you pool your money, you're more likely to be happier and stay together. When that's not what they discovered. They discovered It's probably the reverse. You're more likely to pull your money if you're already happy, which means you're already likely to stay together because you're happy.
Well, you know what? I'm sort of taking a little side road here, but I remember kind of right where you paused this clip here, they were saying something, they were trying to say something about, oh yeah, especially people in lower income brackets.
Right.
And I gotta say that bugs the crap out of me, because if you're in a lower income bracket, you might be struggling, to make ends meet.
You have to pull your money.
You may be required to make sure all the money gets sort of put in one pile in order to satisfy some household needs.
Right.
There might not be enough excess for you to feel that you have the luxury to have any separate buckets or piles of anything, So it feels a little bit like an unfair assessment, or once again, I feel like I'm always saying they're looking at this from this I don't know, standpoint of having the luxury of being able to do all of these things,
right.
they're just assuming a lot.
Well, they're doing it from the standpoint of wealthy white Christian privilege.
Yes, exactly. They have this privilege. Yeah, let's use that word. They have this privilege that makes them just automatically assume that other people
it's the same.
Could do. Yeah, exactly.
That it's comparable, and it's not. It's not. We'll watch a little bit more of this, but yeah, it's ridiculous. They jump to conclusions all the time.
If you will put all of your money in the account and deal with all of the anxiety and all of the hard conversations and all of the push and pull that will entail, the data says you're less likely to break up and you are more likely to experience greater relationship satisfaction.
I can't believe that guy is a PhD.
Okay, oh my God.
Texas Tech needs to. Because it doesn't say that. It says there's a correlation between the two things. It doesn't say that if you pull your money, you're more likely to stay together and be happier. It doesn't say that. I need
to side note this because this is going to drive me crazy. So this I'm going to call it religious thing, because I want to sort of blame it as a Christian thing. This is sort of general religious sort of thing about pooling your money. And the first thing that pops in my head is risk. And I'm not meaning risk in the technical finance sense. I mean feeling like you're doing risky behaviors. I mean behavioral risk, right? So for it's only really in recent years that women even had the ability to control their own money at all, right?
Yeah,
I mean, your husband, you could have your own freaking bank account, and your husband could just go and take all your money out, even if he wasn't on it. You couldn't control your own money. Right. So they're wanting to sing this kumbaya and hold hands, and you pull your money and that means people are happier and whatever. Are they all happier? I don't want to be doom and gloom about all of people's relationships, because some people really have wonderful, happy relationships. But you know what? Some people that are in risky situations that don't have access to any of their money on their own would not be willing to say that things weren't okay, because they feel like they're already at risk.
Right. Well, and then the other
I don't have access to any of my own money. Things are not okay. They're not good. And you want me to go and say, oh yeah, I need my money separate. Things aren't okay. No.
Yeah. Well, especially it depends on the relationship. And I would say that, yeah, you probably should talk about the finances and all that and come to an agreement on stuff. But it's one of those things too, where it depends on the couple. Right? I mean, I've had bad relationships. I would not feel comfortable with all my money in the same account with somebody else. Because how do I know that?
No, nor would I.
Yeah. How would I know that they're not, if they're cheating on me, or they decide they want to go somewhere else and they just siphon all my money out and run?
I have had clients that have had that happen to them. They were married.
More often than you think.
And they looked over and
boom, yep.
The one partner drained all this money out of the account, and then they went through a divorce, and
you got to sue them and then try to get it back, and it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah, but even if you do and you win, you still
no, you still don't get
it. If it's gone, if it's gone, no matter how that goes, you might not be actually recovering the money.
Right. They put it in cash and hide it. There's no way, you're
right.
going to find it. I mean, so yeah. But anyway, let's just jump to the conclusion here because this is just ridiculous. He can't even read. Once again, they always jump to the conclusion they want. And that's the problem is they start with the conclusion they want and then they try to fit the evidence in and it never works. It's like watching the slow kid try to bang the square peg into the round hole. It's like, no, buddy. Put it in the square hole. So anyway, we'll just do this conclusion real quick. I'll just read it. So can you see that well enough or is that too?
No, it's too little. You gotta load that baby up.
Let's see. How do I?
I don't know how you do it on the screen. There it is. There's the button.
I can do it on the.
A little bit more. Can I get a little more?
A little bit more. Do it on the.
Yeah, a tiny bit more.
Is that better?
All right. That's all right. Yeah.
So we're just gonna read concluding remarks. The decision of how to pool finances was one that every couple must make, guided by interdependence theory, which I guess was the theory they were using. We hypothesized and showed that pooling finances versus keeping accounts separate is associated with, doesn't cause, but is associated with increased relationship satisfaction and longevity. So it doesn't cause it, it's associated. They're linked, but they're not, one doesn't necessarily cause the other. Especially for those...
There's a correlation, not causation, different.
Right. Especially for those who experience their financial resources as scarce, meaning people with little money tend to be a lot more likely to pool and stay together. It is our hope that by identifying who is likely to benefit most from pooling finances and why, research in this area can help couples both decide how to organize their finances to maximize relationship quality and ultimately improve their well-being. So they weren't doing this study to prove pooling finances makes your relationship better. They were pooling to say, hey, what does pooling it do versus not do? And what does that show us? And then that will give you, as somebody who's advising a client, a better idea of what to tell them. Because if you have a client who's in a relationship that's not going super well, you're probably not going to want to sit there and tell them, you know what, you and your wife should put all your money together and that'll fix your relationship. That's probably bad advice.
Right.
Well, but I think my wife's cheating on me and she's going to leave me. Well, I'll tell you what, give her access to all your money and I'm sure that'll work out great.
Right?
No, she's going to steal all your money and go off with the other guy. I mean, vice versa, right? The husbands do that shit all the time too. They control all the money and they just take it with them. I'm not giving her anything.
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like, it's chicken or egg. I don't think that pooling assets makes your relationship better. Now, you could potentially make that argument, but I think that'd be hard to show. I think it's more likely that if your relationship's going really well, you're more apt to want to pool money. If your relationship's not going well, you're more apt to want to separate money. The other thing too is in the big study they did, it was really confusing because the questionnaire had the question, do we totally keep our money separate or do we pool our assets? There's no other third choice. It's just those two. So totally separate versus pooling assets. Well, totally separate means we all have different accounts. Pooling assets could mean I have my account, Lacey's got her account, and then we have an account that we throw money in every month to pay the bills.
Right. So this kind of goes back to my,
right,
comparing it to teacher assessments. How you ask the question makes a difference.
And it changes the result.
Not only, I was talking about that in terms of pooling things, but if you ask, in your household, do you and your partner pool money or do you keep all of it separate?
Right.
I can go, oh, well, it's not all separate. We have a joint account. So yeah, we pool our money. Right. But but actually you are keeping some money separate. So
it's both.
Fully accurate, but the way you asked the question,
right,
I gave you one answer instead of saying both.
Right.
You know?
But it's a bad,
makes a difference.
Yeah. But you got to remember, it's the Dave Ramsey mindset. It's their whole mindset. It's the conservative mindset is no matter how much the results change, the conclusion stays the same. That's science, Lacey. That's how science works.
Yeah, my humanities brain just couldn't figure that out.
Oh, God. Anyway, I don't know if you wanted to say anything more about that. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, my last word is organize your money the way you and your partner can handle organizing your money. Yep. If you want to have it all in one place because that feels like the best way for you to manage it, do it that way. If you need your Mad Money accounts to be separate, so when your spouse buys a pair of sneakers when you're about to do whatever, things don't go kaplooey on you, do that.
Right. I agree.
There you go.
I agree. Just have the conversation. I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Have the conversation and organize it according to the way you all behave with money and the way you can organize your money.
Right.
Period.
Well, cool. Well, that was our show for the day. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Lacey.